Welcome back to Life on Rehearse. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And I'm Corrie Matt, a clinical social worker and author of Someone Died, Now What?
Corrie, you know, October, and you would know, you are so involved in this, it's Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, you know, and I think if you talk around, many people have had experiences with some form of pregnancy before or after pregnancy loss. In fact, in my situation, we had a miscarriage. This is going way back 25 years ago, and this was with my ex-wife, Debbie, mom of Lisa and Anthony, and she had a miscarriage actually while I was traveling. I was far away. And, you know, as a dad, and this is our first attempt at having a baby, I felt completely helpless. And I felt bad for Debbie. And her mom, thank goodness, was around and came over to support her. But, you know, there's this guilt and this sadness over a traumatic event. But over time, it does get better. And we ended up having, of course, our two beautiful children. And when I was talking to you about this off air, and I didn't realize, obviously this is very dear to you, and you even have some support groups for exactly this type of situation, and even for dads.
That's it. This is and as wonderful as it is to have subsequent children, that loss never goes away. Mm-hmm. For some people, it's duller, perhaps, at different times. But for the people who experience any kind of infant or pregnancy loss experience, there's no question that it's part of their story. It's part of their narrative. And so groups like Healing Together, which is a free group I've been facilitating from the West Island Women's Center on a monthly basis, has now gone virtual. And also a group called WHAM, What About Me? Or We Also Mourn for Men. Because, you know, you mentioned you felt so bad for your wife, but we always forget that, or sometimes we forget that men grieve too, and they have experienced the loss as well, which is why I'm so grateful to be having and hosting an interview with Chy Salter-Roberts. She's worked in the bereavement field for the last 25 years, and she's the executive director of the Briar Patch Family Life Education Center in Sherwood Park, Alberta, where she lives, as well as the director of grief support programs at the Rusin Family Hospice Center, Pilgrim's Hospice Society in Edmonton. Her grief journey began with stillbirths of her son Breton in 1996 and her daughter Sierra in 1998. Her inspirations for the creation of H.E.A.R.T.S, H-E-A-R-T-S, abbreviated Baby Loss Support Program, and Baby Steps Walk to Remember. Chy, welcome to Life on Rehearse.
Well, thank you both for having me on today. It's a beautiful fall day, and I was happy to come inside and spend some time with you.
So I guess we have to start with your journey. Please help us understand how you began. Like, what brings a nice woman like you into a profession like this?
Well, and it certainly was not the profession that I was working towards. I was home with my children, our children. We have 4 now growing children who are having families of their own, so they're nice and big and doing well. But Chelsea, Brody, and China were our first babies. They were all born at 40 weeks and 3 days. We could count on that by the third birth. And healthy and well. We had a couple of very early miscarriages early on, and they affected us, but we were lucky to continue to have healthy pregnancies after. It was when we had our 5th child, our 3rd son, Breton, who was stillborn quite early in our pregnancy. So he was classed as a stillbirth because it was after 20 weeks, but before 40 weeks. And it just rocked our world. It changed everything. We didn't expect to lose a baby so late in our pregnancy. We didn't know what to do. We were supposed to have him at home, and our midwife suggested when we went into labor to go to the hospital, hoping that they could stop labor, and it was just too quick. So he was born without he didn't take any breaths, he didn't open his eyes. And as I said, it changed everything. We did receive support in the hospital, but they sent us home with empty arms. And 25 years ago, there wasn't the programming that exists now. So it was a very empty, lonely, traumatic feeling to walk in our front door and be greeted by our 4 kids, but not have a new baby in our arms. And so from that experience, we sought support, and we were lucky to find a program in Edmonton that helped us for a few months, just going to a peer support group, meeting other families. We did receive some counseling from the hospital as well. But we don't live in Edmonton, and so it was a bit of a journey to travel to. And it was suggested that we maybe start a program in our community. And so that was the beginning of the H.E.A.R.T.S Baby Loss Program.
And such a great program, which we're going to have more details about. And we're talking with Chy Salter-Roberts, a bereavement specialist, and kind of became a bereavement specialist, and indeed living a life unrehearsed. And as you mentioned, like my case in the mid-'90s as well, Chy, the resources just weren't there as they are today. And good on you for really taking some proactive initiatives. And it tends to be a topic that when you talk to people, you don't realize how many people have been affected by some form of pregnancy or infant loss in their lifetime. And it is such an important topic, isn't it? Why do we need to talk about that more?
And we certainly found that people around us who had never shared their stories just came out of the woodwork to say, hey, we've had this happen as well. And we didn't know. You think you know your friends and family really well, and then something like this happens and there's all these stories. And so one of the things we didn't want to do is just have our son's short time with us be just a story.
Right.
It's important to talk about baby loss. Baby loss affects not just the woman. Obviously, it affects the couple. It affects the children. It affects the entire family. It affects the community. And it affects us in different ways that can be detrimental to continuing forward in a healthy way. If we don't work through our baby loss, there's a chance that it can affect things in our life in a negative way. And I'm just thinking that this is going from like to a very dangerous place, but substance abuse could become a way that someone coping or trying to cope with grief could end up going in that direction if they're not well supported.
And welcome back. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corrie Sirota along with Matt Del Vecchio. We are talking about the fact that October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So we had the privilege and pleasure of talking with bereavement specialist Chy Salter-Roberts about some incredible initiatives that she is doing and the work she's doing to help families deal with this reality. So before traffic, I asked the question, what do you suggest people say or not say to someone who has experienced an infant loss?
Mm-hmm. And this is always a really good conversation in our support program when families will express some of the things that are said to them that are hurtful or not helpful. So we do have a list of things that can get quite lengthy, so I'll just share a few. The first one is, the most heartfelt is, I'm so sorry, I don't know what I can do, but I want you to know I'm here for you. Saying things like, God had a plan, or there must have been something wrong with the baby, just doesn't help most families to process their grief experience. They want their baby with them, no matter
That's right.
what.
Yeah.
They want their baby. To say that you're young, you can have other children, to forget about this, move on. You're fortunate you have other children. We had that often because we already had 4 children at the point that we had Breton. It still was our dream to have a large family, and that just didn't help us at all to feel guilty that we had 4. We knew what we were missing because we already had them, so we knew exactly what we were missing. I think the biggest one, though, is you're young enough you can just have another baby. It doesn't always happen that way. We have many families that struggle for years after with infertility and may never have another opportunity to have a baby. So these things, we often say in our program that most people don't wake up in the morning and come up with a statement that they're going to present to the grieving family as a way to hurt them. Usually it's just in the spur of the moment what they think might sound comforting is what comes
right.
out of their mouth, and sometimes it's not. But we also know that our families are very vulnerable and may not hear exactly how it was said. And so it may, on both sides, not be the best fit.
So I think bottom line is don't try and fix it or try and make it better. Just stay in that hole, in that space with them. So anything that starts off, in my experience, with at least, don't say it.
Yeah.
So
just
true.
be a listening ear and give that opportunity to share their story. Let them talk about their baby and ask questions. Did they have little blue eyes or curly hair? Because we want to share what our babies were all about in the short time that we had them. Just like parents with a brand new healthy baby.
So true. Treating it as equal. Listening to Life on Rehearse with Matt and Corrie, and that's the voice of bereavement specialist Chy Salter-Roberts. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. Chy, I wanted to get your opinion. It can be a very uncomfortable topic to talk about. And I'm just as guilty. Corrie and I very often review potential topics to talk about on our show. And, she'll mention, how about this particular topic, pregnancy and infant loss. And I go, oh, gee, Corrie, that's like really heavy and I'm not comfortable. And then she has to kind of remind me, Matt, our show is called Life Unrehearsed. And she's so right, and this is why we wanted to bring it to everyone's attention and the advice that you're providing everyone. And so you've got something called H.E.A.R.T.S baby loss. Can you tell us a little bit, what does a H.E.A.R.T stand for in this?
So it stands for Helping Empty Arms Recover Through Sharing. We created an acronym because we wanted our title to give a visual or say what it is we do. It is really important to know it is a peer support program, and we continue to operate it as so because we know the best way for families to work through their grief after losing a baby is to be with other families who have had this experience, even though each experience is unique. To be able to share, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was awake thinking I'd heard my baby cry, and 3 other moms in the group, and some of the dads are like, I have that experience too. So now I'm not going crazy. Right. This is part of some of that grief process.
So important, so special, so
absolutely
grateful that you're doing this. So I know you have a few initiatives, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners some of the initiatives you've started, because you've done some pretty impressive stuff.
Well, and I have to say, it's with the help of my family. My husband is my biggest supporter. When I get tired, he kicks me. Come on, and I don't mean physically, but he kicks me. Come on, keep going. So he's the silent partner in all of this. But really the support of my family community is a community initiative, our legacy project. What ended up happening with H.E.A.R.T.S is there was also a call in our community for more support. So we were approached by various individuals saying, could you create a center so it's not just the baby loss program but other programming. So in time, we did create the Briar Patch Family Center, and Briar is a combination of our son Breton's first few initials of his name, and then our daughter Sierra Rose Kennedy, who died 2.5 years later. She was our second stillbirth, and this program became a center. And so within the center, we have a number of programs. But under the baby loss program, we started a Baby Steps Walk to Remember, which is an initiative that runs each fall for families to gather in a beautiful park setting overlooking the river valley in Edmonton. We provide music and opportunities to hear stories, activities for the kids, and then we do a walk together where families walk down a tree-lined path. Their babies' names are laminated and placed in the ground with some little bamboo sticks and then written in front with chalk. And it's just a beautiful setting. When they come back to the gathering point after the walk, we do a bubble release. So each name is read out by our facilitators, and after the name is read, the families will blow bubbles up to the sky. It's just a beautiful, beautiful day. Unfortunately, for the last 2 years, last year with COVID, and now this year, we've had to do it as a virtual event, which we'll be doing next Sunday. And anyone across Canada can register and have their baby recognized and honored.
That's
and we
great.
tape it. It's live, but we also tape it so it can be viewed again and again. The other initiative was something we did last night. The high-level bridge overlooking the North Saskatchewan River in Edmonton was lit up in pink, blue, and white in recognition of International Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. And that initiative is worldwide. So bridges and buildings, churches, any building that's prominent in a community was likely lit up last night in those colors. There was 200 lightings around the world last night. And it was a beautiful night. And then we go under the bridge, like we drive across the bridge, and the lights are lit throughout the night. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place.
It's really, really special. We're already out of time, Chy. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for being so proactive after loss, and you're really making a difference. So can you give us, particularly for that Walk to Remember, if it's Canadian-wide, can you just give some details? How can people find out more about that?
So we have a website that is easy to get to, babystepswalk.com. babystepswalk.com. They can hit the registration form and send us off their information, and we'll make sure their baby is honored.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thank you both for the opportunity, because awareness is how we get through this.
All right, thank you. It's bereavement specialist Chy Salter-Roberts, and remind everyone, October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. Just so great, Corrie, what she's doing. What do we have coming on next week?
Next week, inclusion of sexual diversity in senior settings, a critical issue. And we're going to get some clarity about the difference between power of attorney and protection mandates.
Yes, I get this question all the time. And while we're talking about it, we're going to be talking about some risk assessments in your home as we age. So our wonderful guest, Katie Fagan, knows a lot about this information. So Katie will be on next week, and you want to be tuning in for that. So thank you very much for tuning in to Life Unrehearsed. And as a reminder, for all your inquiries or assistance with retirement homes, seniors' residences, or downsizing, it'd be my pleasure to help. Our services are completely free. Call me at Lianas Senior Transition Support at 514-622-8074 or lianasservices.com.